I feel so privileged to be able to wish you a Christ's joy-filled Christmas and a hope-filled 2022. Right across the Anglican Communion, challenges of the most enormous kind are being faced. Outside the tragedies of war, this is the biggest time of global tension we've had to face since the Communion began. And yet, already in so many parts of the Communion, you know what it is to suffer. Floods, wars, civil war, corruption, suffering, illness, pandemic, malaria, measles, cholera, typhoid, poverty, oppression, persecution. These continue to be the facts of life. But we can still find joy because that's the world that Jesus Christ came into. And all around the world, the Communion is meeting these needs. We can't do everything, but we can do everything that God gives us the resources to do. So, for example, I know of a place in the middle of a civil war which is nevertheless running a COVID clinic. I know of a province where there is appalling terrorism, which is strengthening communities. I know of places that are speaking up for injustice and saying this must stop. I know places that are welcoming refugees and IDPs. The Anglican Communion is called to the 5 marks of mission: to tell, to teach, to tend, to transform, and to treasure the world in which we live. We are God's church for God's world, as the Lambeth Conference title has it, quite rightly. That's God's mission to us. And we can give thanks at Christmas that all over the world, people are carrying it out. And the challenges that God has called us to face are indeed huge. At the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow in Scotland in November, I was present and saw the struggles that people were having to bring literally all the nations of Earth, with all their problems in other ways, together to recognize as one that unless climate change is tackled, it is a threat to every single one of us. There's no one who can be a passenger in this challenge. It's one we all have to face. And as Christians, we face it because it's God's world that we are seeking to preserve and care for. And that it's God's church that has to look after refugees, and that issue and the issue of war will become worse if climate change just rages unchecked around the world over the next generation. So we need to pray for that, act on that, speak about that, and take part in transformation. Let's work together on that. And then we look forward in hope as well, not just at the challenges, but at the fact that in 22 we will meet online and physically. We will meet and we will celebrate that we belong to one another with all our differences. The bishops and their spouses will come from all over the world to pray, to learn, to think, to get new commitment to telling people of the hope that is found only and uniquely in Jesus Christ, to teaching them how to grow in love and in knowledge of Christ, to look afresh at how, with changes in science and climate and so many ways, we tend the needy, to talk about how we can transform unjust structures of society and bring reconciliation in places of conflict, and to campaign to treasure the earth in which we live. I've learned so much about the Anglican Communion in the almost 9 years I've been Archbishop of Canterbury. I'm not a pope. We are a fellowship, a communion. Sisters and brothers in Christ of all ages and cultures. God has brought us together. Let us stay and walk together to do God's work together and to be together in heaven through the salvation he offers us. Again, may God grant you Christ's joy this Christmas and Christ's hope in this coming year.